What's good, everyone? CapiTance here, and today we're going to talk about the game, The Ambassadors Fracture Timelines. Two things before we take our deep dive into the Ambassadors Fracture Timelines. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. One, this game was given to me for the free by the publisher, the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild. You guys will have no idea how many takes it took me to nail that line. Two, this is the first video that I'm filming since we got the tragic news that Chadwick Boseman has passed away. And I'm not going to speak on it too long because I know you're here for video games, but I really wanted to say that, I mean, he did a fantastic job in all the movies that he's been in all the roles that he's done. But especially Black Panther, I have a poster of it up above my right shoulder. And I just want to say that he was a huge inspiration to the Black community and to, the nerd community, into the Marvel community, and the superhero community, and the community in general. And if you could take one thing away from his life, is that he had stage 3 colon cancer and even stage 4, and was going through chemotherapy and countless surgeries, and he still found a way to make amazing movies and amazing content. So if you are a content creator or anybody that just is aspiring to do anything, now is the time. You can do this. Go out there and do it, and look to Chadwick for inspiration when times get tough. Awkward transition time. And I said it once before that this game was given to me for free. And I think legally I have to say that. The one thing I legally don't have to say is that the Ambassador, Fracture Timelines, is the greatest game I've ever played in my entire life. Ooh, money. No, I'm kidding. You'll get my unbiased and honest opinion about the game, or will you? So what is the Ambassador Fracture Timelines? Well, it's a twin-stick fantasy shooter centered around the ability to stop time. You'll play as Gregor, a newly recruited member of the Eternal Fellowship and an ambassador of time. Just as you are learning to use your newfound powers, the Fellowship's capital city is mysteriously destroyed. As one of the only remaining fellows, you must find those responsible and return to Mars to his former glory. I don't know about you guys, but I love twin-stick shooters. I'm sometimes bad at them, but I still love them. And I really like that the Ambassador's Fracture Timelines has thrown in the fantasy element. I think it gives it a little bit something different than some of these other twin-stick shooters that we know and love. So, will the Ambassador Fracture Timelines be the next great twin-stick shooter? Let's find out. The objective in the Ambassador Fracture Timelines is very simple. Kill everything, and then a portal appears, rinse and repeat. But how do you do that? Like in any twin-stick shooter, you get a couple of items to help you defeat your enemies. And the Fracture Timelines gives you 3 main ones to work with. You get a melee item, you get a magic item, and you get the ability to stop time. Let's start with the melee item. The first item you get is a spear. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this spear feels awful to play with on console, especially on a controller. I almost thought about not playing the game anymore after playing 2 minutes with this spear. The big thing when it comes to twin stick shooters is that when I shoot, I want to know my shot is going in that general vicinity of where I just shot. Basic stuff, right? And the spear just didn't feel right. Like I said, it almost made me quit the game. Now, luckily, you get an item very soon after, a broadsword that is much more reliable. This is what the game should feel like. This is what you guys should start the game with, and throw that spear into the garbage. Along the way, you do pick up more items. You pick up a crossbow, a hammer, and a cutlass. Not a cutlass supreme, like 2 swords, that cut things. The hammer and the cutlass seem like they should be useful, but they both have big drawbacks. So when you throw the hammer, it doesn't come back to you like other items. And I once threw it into the water, and the only way to get it back was to go into the menu. Could you imagine that happening during a fight? The dual cutlasses radiate in a circle around you, and they seem like they should do a whole lot of damage, but they just don't. And they take forever to get back to you. My recommendation to anybody playing this game is to go with the broadsword. You'll do a lot of damage and quickly. As for your magical item, you get a wand that shoots out green blobs of death. And this feels like this should be your main weapon. It hits hard and it's accurate. The only drawback is that you only get so many shots before it needs to recharge. If I were you, I would try to use this item as much as possible. There's even an upgraded version that locks on to people and you think it would make killing a little bit easier, but sometimes it can make things more difficult because the way it locks onto people, it'll hook and run into a wall. And the last tool that you get in your defense against the dark arts is the ability to stop time. This ability is going to save your ass more times than you can count. So I would get accustomed to using it and using it often. It's also the defining feature of the game and what separates it from other twin stick shooters. And basically, you create a stasis field, and anything that comes in contact with the stasis field stops. And so this is very useful when fighting enemies, as you can slow them down and still attack at regular speed. It even becomes necessary to slow some of these enemies down because they move way faster than you do. We now have a pretty basic understanding of how the game works. That leaves one question. Is it a fun game to play? When I first started playing the game, I was a little worried because I was blazing through the levels and they were really small. But as the game progresses, the levels get more complex, the enemy attack patterns get more complex, and the enemy variation gets more complex. And at points, the game can get really hard. I died quite a bit. There's even a place I deemed the Bridge of Doom, where there's arrows flying at you, there's enemies coming down the bridge, there's obstacles in your way, and it's just a hellacious fight. If this was a normal twin stick shooter, you probably would die over and over on this bridge. But since you have the ability to stop time, it gets real good. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you get into the zone and you'll see an arrow coming at you with certain doom written on it, and you'll stop it. And you'll feel like you're Neo in the Matrix. And then you can also slow down time and have your enemies run into attacks from other people. It's glorious. One disappointing factor when it comes to combat in this game is that my attacks don't stop other attacks, or arrows at least. Being able to parry attacks would have given this game a little more distinct feeling that I think it's missing, and I wonder if the developers ever thought about this idea. I know the team at Tiny Dino is small, but I wonder if it's something that came across their minds. One thing to note that did kind of bother me on certain levels is that they would just drop you right into a fight. You come through the portal and it's go time. Now, on one hand, that's great. Like, yes, keep the action going. But on this other hand, it's like, man, I'm trying to catch my breath here. I mean, luckily you can pause and whatnot, but it's like, I'm surrounded by 15 people. Help me. One area where I thought the game really shined is in the boss fight. I fought a guy that throws tables. Not only is that creative, but it's hilarious. Now, I know you're probably saying to yourself, how hard can that be? He throws a lot of tables. He throws them really fast. And he also moves like he's Usain Bolt. Eventually, it becomes this hyper deadly version of dodgeball, and you're having to choose between stopping the tables and stopping him and knowing when to attack. It's actually a lot of fun. Now for the big question, should you buy this game? I don't really have a simple answer for you, but what my gut is telling me is that if you love twin stick shooters, you'll enjoy this game. If this is your very first twin stick shooter, don't buy it. There are other games like Enter the Gungeon and even Neon Abyss that play and feel smoother than this game. Now, this is a great effort by Tiny Dino Games, but I think there's a lot of things that they can clean up. The biggest room for improvement is on how the game actually feels. It needs to be precise when I'm aiming at these enemies, because that first weapon, the spear, is real bad. And again, I almost didn't want to play the game after using the spear. So those are my thoughts on the Ambassador Fracture Timelines. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're interested in purchasing a copy of the Ambassador Fracture Timelines, it's available for Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and Steam. A big thank you to the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild for giving me a copy of the game to review. Man, y'all remind me of S.H.I.E.L.D. Y'all need to do something about that name. Y'all need to shorten it, Quag, something. And a bigger thank you to you for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, I'm CapiTanceTV. Deuces!